right, it's time for another episode of Go Talk. Today I have two people to the other sides of me. I have Eric Jankowski. Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Wait, is he
And
to
on
this
the
side or is he to this side?
for me, he's this side.
So am I pointing the right way? Which one's the right way?
That way. That
Yes,
way's
Eric, over there.
And
Hi.
then I also have Andrew Jackson.
This is right here.
Yes. And today we're going to talk about Go clubs. Everything about Go clubs, running them, different ways you can maybe promote them, and just some thoughts about them. So I think the best way to start this is to talk about our history with Go clubs. Eric, you want to start?
Sure. So I started a student Go club at the University of Michigan in 2001, spring of 2001, with my friend Ben Harder. And it was just a couple of us that wanted to play more Go.
Was his last
And
name Harder?
Harder.
Like
H-
more Ben? Like Ben Harder!
Harter,
Hardest.
Harter.
Oh,
But
Hart.
the other description is also true. You always want more of Ben. He's great.
Okay.
And we started this little club, registered a student organization, but then found that there was a existing Ann Arbor Go club that we quickly plugged into, and we kind of merged to become one thing. As the people that were running the Ann Arbor Go club were kind of phasing out their participation in that particular club, and so that club ran for. I was in charge or kind of mentoring that club for about the next 10 years before I moved to Denver, Colorado, and kind of attended a few clubs while I was out there. And then now I'm up in Boise, where I'm kind of sowing the seeds for student clubs at Boise State University, where that's where I now work.
Cool.
I should also mention that back in Michigan, that's when the Collegiate Go Championship, kind of towards the end of my tenure there, was on the rise. The Collegiate Go Championship was starting to become popular, and so we won that the first few times, and so that was a big crowning achievement for that club.
That's
Nice.
only because we weren't competing. I don't know about this.
That's absolutely possible, but we had a club that was really great at pulling strong players out of the woodwork when we needed it.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. And Andrew, what was your background with just different Go clubs?
Let's see. So I went to my undergrad was at Virginia Tech back here a long time ago, and I started the Virginia Tech Go Club. And so I guess the right thing to say is revived it, because a lot of these things there is, or at one point there was a Go Club, and you know, some of those people graduate, they move on, and the Go Club sort of falters. In our case, you know, like, I would go back and forth to Northern Virginia, and the Northern Virginia tournament scene was very strong. Like, you had Keith Arnold in Baltimore, you had the Nova Club, they'd do their Cherry Blossom tournament, it would have like 100 and some people in it, which is a pretty big tournament for the East Coast. And then, you know, I'd go back down to Blacksburg, Virginia, which is, you know, 4 hours away, and it was sort of kind of different. But anyway, so started the Blacksburg Go Club, you know, tried to make that happen. Moved off, ended up moving to upstate New York, and revived the Cornell Go Club. Cornell had a specific Go and Changchi. Changchi? Yeah. No. Xiangqi. Go and Xiangqi Cup. Yeah, not Changchi. I'm thinking of the one that was in Boston. That's totally different. Anyway, Cornell had one of these Go and Chinese chess clubs, and that had been totally orphaned. Actually, it's pretty funny. Their student building, apparently they had a dude who like never graduated for like 12 years or something. And when they finally made him graduate, he ended up going on to make a ton of money, which he left to the school on the condition that it not be used on anything academic. Like,
Oh, nice.
so he's got this whole building which is just devoted. It's not allowed to have any it's got like a recreational reading room, it's got some game rooms, it's got, you know, a dining hall, it's got a big dance hall, but there's no academia in the whole building. It's great. So that was where they keep all the boards and stuff. And that's always one of the problems, right? Where do you keep the boards? So anyway, so lived in upstate New York, helped with the Cornell Club, which is still going, and Cornell Club had another club up in Rochester that we'd go visit a lot called the Empty Sky Go Club, and they were, you know, enormous. I think they were the most active club on the East Coast. for a
And
long
they started the Go Congress. One of them was
They did host a Go Congress. That was actually before I started going to Go Congresses.
Wow.
So yeah, so this is before my first Go Congress was 2007.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
I didn't go to that many. I just missed 2008, and then I haven't missed one since
I
2009.
feel like I've known both of you forever, but it's
I
only been
know.
8 years.
And you're also now part of the Seattle Go.
That's
Go
right,
Center.
and it was really nice actually to move out here and have like an established Go scene where, where that's not something that you have to figure out how to do from scratch. So,
Okay.
so it's been kind of interesting. You know, you got the two college clubs, and then they were next to these two much more well-established clubs. You know, the Nova clubs and the Nova scene, and the Empty Sky Club. Excuse me. And anyways, so it's very different to come out here to Seattle, where there's a building, but there's not necessarily the same. You know, the tournament scene is totally different out here, and there's not as much like the Seattle Go Center sort of sucks up a lot of the energy. So people try to start other Go meetups, but they kind of flounder because they're competing with something that's got something 7 days a week now. You know, it's kind of
Right.
Anyway, that's just another subject.
Right. And then my general background is I attended the Dallas Go Club around in 2002, and then after a few years they said we need a president, and then I was the only one raising my hand, and then I became the
mistake right there.
Yeah, it was a really bad mistake because then they were like, oh good, you're president for life. And I was like, what does that mean? So I became president for life for the Dallas Go Club until I die or hand it off to someone. Or, they revolt. And I've also seen a lot of other Go clubs. I've been to the Austin Go Club. There was a Cincinnati Go Club that I went to. And I think that's it. I've actually been to, there's like a Korean Go salon actually in LA that I visited.
Oh, are we counting those? I
sort of. Those are interesting satellite things that are interesting to talk about. So I think this is a good point, considering all of our experiences. The first topic I want to get to is, what do you think makes a successful Go club? Eric has written an actual article online, and we'll link to it in the description. Oh, yeah. And we can start with you, Eric, if you want, or I can start, or Andrew, if you know something you want to talk about.
Well, see, if he already wrote his, then I should say mine first, so it's not, because we can check his to see if he changes it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, I could be like Googling his right now, right? So I should go first.
Yeah,
I agree. Hear the tic tac of your keyboard.
That's right, exactly. Me and my loud keyboard. All right, so I think that the things that you need for a successful Go club are, you need free food, you need a critical mass, and you need I think you need people to be friends as well outside of Go Club. Like,
now, what do you mean friends outside of Go Club?
Well, let me start with the free food, because that one's probably the easiest one to get right off the table.
Okay.
Virginia Tech, Cornell, both of these places, they had Virginia Tech's Go Club had a real. We were meeting in the student center, and we'd meet at a point in the day when the Au Bon Pain, which was part of their. Anyway, pastries, half price. So you'd get all these like cherry croissants and like cupcakes and muffins and stuff. They'd all be half prices at the point that the club was starting. And this was absolutely critical. I can't tell you the number of times we had people, because I feel like one of the things you got to do is you got to overcome inertia, right? And like, to get people to not want to just play on KGS or OGS or wherever, and to get them to actually come out, they need a reason, and that reason can be as simple as free food.
Yeah.
But do you feel that seems like a college thing rather than a
kind of, sort of, but I think that even for people who are supposedly responsible adults and have all this stuff taken care of, I still think the idea that that if I just show up, I don't have to think about it. I'm not going to have to worry about what am I going to do for dinner tonight. I'm just going to go there. The Seattle Go Center has free fresh bread every Tuesday. Chris Kirshner has been baking fresh bread every Tuesday, as near as I can tell, since continuously since 1965 or something like this. As near as I know, Chris Kirshner has been baking fresh bread literally my entire life on Tuesdays, and it's amazing. The bread is delicious. He's got the dough is rising all over the kitchen in the back.
Oh, there's a kitchen there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so
It's a center, man.
He bakes it all there. It's great. And then they also take up a collection for some pizza, which is pretty clutch as well. I know there's some people, and the pizza goes on like 50 cents a slice sale toward the end of the night. And you'd think it's silly, but this actually, you know, I know some people who show up because they look forward to the pizza or the bread, or, you know, they make jam. Some people make jam and they bring it in to go with the bread, and it becomes this real, like, anyway, it's overcoming that inertia of like, I could just, if I just want to play a game, I could play a game on KGS. I won't have to give anybody handicap stones. Why come to club? And the answer is there's some food there, and otherwise I have to figure out an answer to that problem of what am I going to eat tonight. So
that is true.
I think that helps. So food, the critical mass / camaraderie, where you have to have a group of people that will commit to show up every week, like they're going to be there without fail. And it's even better if those people, you know, they're not just seeing each other every week. I think the Empty Sky Go Club is the best example I've heard of this, where at the peak of Empty Sky, they were meeting 5 days a week.
Really?
Because they would all play Smash Brothers, they'd all play Go, they'd, you know, they'd have like these informal Go Club meetings because they were going to do this anyway. Like, so they might as well get together and do it. So it became a thing where it was like, we should do this 2 nights a week, and then 3, and then 4. And then, you know, they were basically at each other's house the whole time. And what you got out of this was you got like 7 people make Shodan within 2 years. And you had a bunch of them reach 5 and 6 Dan. So you had Gus Price, Greg Rosenblatt, Nick Blake, what's the other Nick? I can't even keep up with them all. But they're Jared Beck. I can't forget Jared. Jared's the dude who helped, who moved down to Ithaca and did the Cornell Go Club. All of them hit 3 Dan or higher, and they were all part of this crew where they were hanging out, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. And that critical mass is crucial.
Okay. And then I guess that goes along with the camaraderie part.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so let's transition on to you, Eric.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so when you ask the question, what does it take to run a successful Go Club? You know, any person's definition of success might vary from another's.
Right.
So, like, for some people, it's a really big club, right? But that essay that I wrote is not so much about how to make a club that's particularly big, but how to make one that fits my definition of success, which was really inclusive. So it kind of addressed the camaraderie that Andrew was talking about head on. It was a place where everybody felt welcome to come and play, and it was fun to come and make mistakes and, you know, try to learn from the stronger players, try to beat up on people that, you know, have been beating on you for a while, but also where it was safe to do so, right? So I think when that culture was really explicit in the club, that was a really fun growth time at the Ann Arbor Club. And I remember one guy that got started with the club kind of during this time, Mike Anuzis, who I don't know if you guys know or not, but he's now working for Google over in Japan. And before he left, he brought me this big book of Go problems, and it was Mike Anuzis.
Mike Anuzis. I don't know, but so there's an Empty Sky guy over in Japan right now at Google. His name is Kei Kawabata. He also made Dan level. I totally forgot about him until you just mentioned that. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway,
Mike, they should look each other up.
Maybe they should, get in touch, or you should get in touch. Mike's awesome, and actually, he was at the. It might have been. It was the Pennsylvania Go Club or Go Congress. Mike, me, John Hopp, and Albert Guo shared a room at the Pennsylvania Go Congress. That was a blast.
You're talking about the Lancaster one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first Go Congress. That was the one where the Empty Sky. There were like 12 people in the Empty Sky Go Club room, and that was just, it was just ridiculous.
But yeah, Mike. So the kind of the important point of the story was when he was leaving for Japan after having been in Ann Arbor for a few years, taking classes and participating really deeply in the club. He brought this book of Go problems, and it was like this really emotional goodbye, where it was clear that the place we had made, the environment we had made, was really important to him and other people too. But being able to hear that was really, really special. So it was really nice to hear how, being thoughtful about how, what good etiquette is, and how to play nicely with your friends can really go a long way towards making a place fun to be that people really cherish.
Okay, cool. And for me, the story that I have, and it's the one thing that's stuck with me, is right after I became president. One of the guys, Dallas Go Club actually happens to be one of the older Go Clubs in the AGA history. I didn't know this because it started. It was even before the '90s, I think. But it went through 2 or 3 incarnations, and before I did, and then one of the old guard showed up one week, and they said, "Oh, look, it's Kevin. He's our president for life." And he sat me down once, and he said, "You know what the most important thing for a Go Club is?" And of course, I had no idea. And
Tell us.
And his point was that it always happens. And for me, I think that's the one thing that I've taken and into it. And he says, if it's occasional, people don't know whether it's going to happen. And as long as it's consistently happening, people will always show up.
That's what I mean. Like, have that core group. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so for that, it just says, if you just stress that every Thursday it happens, people will come back, that they just know that when they look at their calendars Thursday, and I stress it to any newcomer who shows up, and it's to the point of annoyance, honestly. I'm just like, if you look at your calendar, it's Thursday, we're always playing. The only exception is like Thanksgiving, obviously, because that doesn't happen.
That's the problem with the college stuff, because like with the college clubs, you've got this problem where the students take these breaks, right? They'll take off fall break, they'll take off a lot of times the whole summer vacation is kind of dead. And each fall you're like, is it going to start again? Is it not going to start again? Is there anybody who's going to carry the torch?
Right.
Whereas like if you have a non-college, non-high school affiliated club, you have some clearer, Dallas is not going anywhere. It is not the Dallas University, right? So anyway.
Yeah, and so for me, just having it, the one thing beat into me, and the one thing I really try and follow, is just that it must always go on. That to me, the most important thing for a Go Club is for it to always be every Thursday. That come rain or shine, unless there's some other thing, that is the most important thing. Because I feel. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that. That's what brings people together. So like the food that brings people into college clubs and the Seattle Go Club, that's tradition. And when you have something that happens the same time, the same place, that's tradition. And like that tradition is something you can depend on. And when it's dependable, people will show up.
You can build groups around it. You can start building groups around it. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a big theme in that essay that I wrote. Was I said you had to have 2 people in your club.
Which I totally looked it up, by the way. I put myself on mute and I went to look it up.
That's why I couldn't hear you.
Yeah,
It's pretty short. And yeah, it's basically somebody always has to be there. And then somebody has to be nice. And
yeah, that's such a, so I don't know if you guys saw Nick Sabicki did for the teachers workshop. So they've done this thing the last couple of Congresses where they try and have a workshop about how to be a good Go teacher. And some of those have been great, some of them less great, but Nick Sabicki put one of his up there. And one of the things that he pointed out is, it's not about lessons plans, it's not about Tsuji, it's about like some of the basic logistical stuff of how to run a good class is equally applicable to how to run a good club. And one of them is get everybody's name, get people's names right.
I get them wrong.
No, but I feel like there's a bunch of times when the basics, like if you haven't read the Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, like you absolutely should. Somebody wrote a lessons in the fundamentals of like being nice, and it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and you should do it. And one of the first ones is like get people's names right because it means a lot to them. Like, and there's a bunch of other ones like that as well. Whereas this is, make good eye contact. show interest in their interests. A bunch of like just how to be a person who people will think that you care about them, which isn't. I mean, whether that's a hollow shell on your misanthropic interior or whether you genuinely mean it doesn't really matter. Like, that's fine, whatever. But,
well, and it can start off that way too. I mean, like,
exactly.
Like there exist people like us that are like on the autism spectrum that like start off like being like, okay, here are things that like let me fit in with society. But then after a while, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not actually a jerk. Okay.
Right. Maybe some people are kind of okay. No, but so one of the things that Nick said was get people's names right. And another one that he had, which is more of the organizational logistics, was always get people's email addresses, get people's contact information. Don't let someone just walk off into the dark and you'll have no way to get a hold of them. Be like, hey, do you mind? I mean, I'll just send you an email about classes, or in this case, I'll just send you an email about the next Go Club meeting. That, some of this logistical stuff of like, have it happen every week, send out an email, let people know it will happen like earlier than the day of. That's usually a good one. Get people's names right, know their names, be excited to see them. I feel like, anyway, so Eric, you're saying you need two people? These need to be different people? Like
they don't have to be different people, but I think that logistically what ends up being easy a lot of the time is someone that's having two people. One person who's really excited about being there all the time, which could be the same person as your strong, nice player. The strong, nice player is really key for enforcing this culture of inclusivity because they carry a bit more authority with knowing more about the game, right?
Right.
And it's not to say that you can't still have a great club without strong players, but I think that it's efficient for the strong players to enforce that culture of teaching because every
set a good example, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, every strong player got strong because somebody took the time to help them here and there, right?
Kevin, just thinking like, gosh, I need to be nicer. Is that what I see on your face over there, Kevin?
Well, no, it's interesting because it's different. When I showed up to the club, and actually, it seems to be that the weaker players are much more willing to teach than the stronger players. Actually, at my club, the stronger players, historically, even they just play. They're there to play Go. But
if you get a strong player who can teach, then they're gonna get people coming back.
Here's the thing. For me, the reason I wanted to show up and the reason I wanted to keep showing up was the Go, and it wasn't so much. I mean, the people being nice and all that, but just to be in that environment where I could see people playing Go and just actually interact. Because there is a weird hurdle between playing online and playing in person. And like a slow game online, when you're done, you don't want to even look at it anymore sometimes. But a slow game in person, you still want to. You've spent 30 minutes with this guy. You might still interact with it.
Right.
And so I feel that, like, for me, when people show up to my club, I don't know why they're going to be here, and I don't know the reasons why they can keep showing up. So I actually sometimes wonder how much I can do with that welcoming thing, where maybe it was just a one-off and maybe they're not going to show up again, regardless of how welcoming or how much I teach them. That mine is sort of a laissez-faire, let them just do whatever they want.
Well, sure.
Because a lot of them show up and they're really shy. And you don't know how to interact with that.
So maybe because I totally agree with Eric. I think that if you have this strong, nice player, it's going to make it a lot easier to get that critical mass. Like, it sounds like the Dallas club is happening, and it'll happen every Thursday no matter what. With the student clubs, you need to get that crew together because sometimes you will be the only one there if you're not careful. And I think, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like you and I have probably had this person drop in where they maybe are a student who's visiting from China or from Korea or from Japan, and they're like 5 or 6 Dan, and they're like the only 5 or 6 Dan player there. And so they show up and they see that all they can do is give handicap games and they never come back. Or they show up sort of like intermittently for a semester. Maybe there's 2 of them. Maybe there's 2 of these like random strong people who have like played it a lot as a kid and they got to be very strong. And they play each other like once or twice, everybody in the club watches because these two people are playing each other. One of them wins, and they never play each other again because that's it. They don't want to show up and like have this competition for who's better. And so then they go back to playing like League of Legends or whatever it is, and you never see them again.
Well, it's actually, for me, it was one of the reasons I wanted to get stronger at Go. One of the reasons my first goal was just to hit 1 dan, just because I was like, clearly if I hit 1 dan, I'll understand something. I didn't understand. Were you getting
stronger with another person? Did you have like a friend you were improving with?
No, I actually, my Go career has been very strange. But 1 dan was the first reason, but after I became 1 dan, a big thing for me was I wanted to become stronger so that these Asian players that would show up would continue showing up. I actually felt really annoyed and somewhat embarrassed when like some Chinese guy shows up, he's 4 or 5 dan, or 4 or 5 dan Chinese, goodness, that's really high. And he'll show up and it's like, oh, all I'm doing is giving handicap stones and there's nothing I can do to make them stay.
So you turned yourself into the strong, nice player, right?
I don't know about nice, but I tried to become stronger because of that. And
well, so the person who was going to come no matter what, right? And they were like, because these other, like in this case, the 4 or 5 dans who just drop in, like they're not here for the community yet. They're here because they want to see if they can get a game,
right?
And when they see they can't get a game, then they leave.
Yeah.
Right? You need to you're trying to figure out how to make them stick around for the people and the groups and the traditions, and they're not. They're totally just here to see if they're like, oh, there's some, U.S. Go club here. I should check it out.
Right, right.
But they're not interested in leading a community or teaching people or right.
Yeah.
And it feels bad to. Go ahead, Eric.
Here's an element of that I just thought of that. It's a hypothesis, and you guys, I'll bounce this off of you, and we'll see what you think. But so, I think a big element of the people that come regularly are the people that are really interested in improving, right?
Yes.
I bet when we were going to clubs the most was when we were on, that 15Q through like 1 dan trajectory.
I'm going to disagree with you, but go ahead. Keep finishing.
Okay. And then, and I wonder if when people start plateauing at their rank and it gets really, really hard to get stronger, I wonder if then that community element becomes a more important aspect of them showing up. I think that if you're stuck, the game really has to be fun to play to keep coming back. You want to see these people and have those interactions because increasing your level takes real actual work. And you can make it a job, or it can be a recreation. And I think for people that are strong that want to play and have fun with it, but are showing up and finding themselves in positions of responsibility all of a sudden, maybe that's not exactly what they're looking for all the time.
And I think it speaks to Go Congress. I think I feel that a lot of the reason I keep showing up for Go Congress for me isn't to get better, and sometimes isn't the Go. It is the people. So
it's totally the people.
Yeah,
and there's also all these other people at Go Congress that I still haven't met yet, which is
and they're having their own Go Congress, and you see them all playing Avalon, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like this parallel group. Anyway.
But what was the point you were gonna say, Andrew?
I was gonna end up very similar to where Eric ended up, which is that it is indeed like he was saying it's the people come to club because they're improving, and I was gonna say no. People are totally coming. Like, in fact, it can help even if you have Go and another game, or have everyone be friends outside of Go Club, because this is just where their friends are going to be, right? And so I think that as long as you've got that kind of a crew forming, then you don't have to worry as much about whether or not people are getting better, or if people are just showing up for that, because people are going to be there for their friends. I like the Empty Sky example is kind of a great one, because there wasn't just like 1 or 2 strong people. They ended up having like 6 or 7 kids that were all in this arms race, right? Like they totally were all trying to get better quicker so they could keep up with each other, because they were competing with each other, like everything, Smash Brothers, like
that arms race. That arms race is key. I remember we had a we had a
So
yin and yang workshop in Ann Arbor, and I had like an exam or something for like the first day of it. And Ben, my co-founder, got to go to the first day, and I didn't. And we were always even. And I was like immediately taking 2 stones from him after like 1 day of this. And I was like, this cannot happen.
yeah, so it was at RIT. It was Thomas Shang. Thomas Shang, who's like an incredible Go organizer. Like, if there's so many people who don't even know who he is, and he's probably done more for American Go than like anyone else. Thomas Shang was basically like giving them all like less, like he'd have them all come over to his place, and because he's 7 down, so he was this strong, nice guy who was totally happy to just, because when people are in that phase where they're sponging up all the books and all the problems, and they really want to keep up with their friend or whoever it is, like your job is just to keep shoving material at them as quickly as they want it.
Yeah.
Right. And so Thomas Shang was this basically like limitless fountain of like, oh, you want to see a new Joseki, huh? All right. You know, so.
Well, this is an interesting point. Do you think in forming a Go club or continuing a Go club, do the ranks matter? I mean, I look on Reddit or I look on Life in 19 by 19, and a lot of people is like, oh man, I'm like only 7Q and it's really hard. I want to start a club. I mean, how much do you think the ranks matter in running a club, starting a club, or continuing a club?
Don't matter from a personnel perspective.
Right. You need that person to show up, and you need that person who's gonna keep everybody organized. You need that person who's gonna make everybody feel like they belong here, and they don't have to be 3 down. They can just be whatever. Like,
yeah, and Ben and I started the U of M Go club when we were about 10Q.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
what was that like in the beginning, if you don't mind me asking?
So in the beginning, it was me and Ben in my dorm room, and then we found Susan Weir, who was really active in the Go scene in Michigan. She ran the East Go Club up in Traverse City for years and years and years. So, like, there's these pictures.
Just the East Go Club?
There was like the East Go Club and the West Go Club.
But it's not like East Michigan or like East something. It's just the East Go Club?
It was East U.S. and West U.S. So there was like one typically in like Seattle and one in like Michigan. And
there's the West one and the East. That's it. There's no qualifier. It's just East.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, if you go, you can probably dig these up on the internet, but there's like pictures of like the Baral kids, like kitty kids at this Go club. There's one of like Jin Chen, and I think maybe it's Kristen in like togas. That's great. But this is Susan Weir, sowing the seeds for strong Go players that are participating in the community today. Decades ago, and she was kind of dialing back her involvement in the club when I showed up. But she was one of these people that brought people over to her house, made sure there was food, and just let the Go players do their thing in this forum, and really set a great example for how to be the person that was always there, and then connecting the people that needed to become friends so that they could keep this thing going.
Some of these Go players, they're really like little delicate, fragile flowers that like you need to do these things for them because they won't be able to get it otherwise. You gotta
get really true.
In their face, it's like the pandas that like they just will not be able to. Okay, you know what that metaphor is.
Yes. I know where you're going.
We had a Go party at my house after my wife and I got married, and it was great. It was a great Go party.
Yeah.
And Megan says, that was the quietest party I've ever been to.
Leanne out here in Seattle, she throws these big Go parties, 2 or 3 times a year, where it's just everybody comes over. There's a couple games going on, but there's the food and it's like a real ties the whole community together kind of event. And they're so crucial.
So when did, with the Michigan Go Club, when did you start seeing more personnel, and what would happen if someone strong came in and, let's say he can only give stones? Like, what would you do in that?
So Ann Arbor's a university town, and these towns tend to have secret pros, right? Or people that are at least in the 6 down, 7 down level.
That person who's coming over from Beijing University, who's doing their like grad school, yeah.
And one of our guys was dude John Starkweather, who became very strong very fast, around 7 Dan, where he plateaued. But, that's where the ranks end up anyway. And and so he would come to the club a lot and always would have to give stones, but he's a super nice guy. It was a great teacher, but was one of the sorts of people where I think had really little incentive to come if it wasn't just to kind of see his friends, right?
I'd say that the thing that you do if you have that strong player is you don't force them. You don't insist that they play games. You don't, badger them all the time. Like, part of this inclusivity is that, if you have this strong person, you don't necessarily, I guess, I feel like as we get stronger, we realize, each of us has come to our own individual conclusions that, maybe going to Go Club is not going to be about our own personal quest for another stone of strength, and that like part of our role of getting stronger is that you have other responsibilities, but not everybody reaches that conclusion, and like there's some people for whom, they want to go to Go Club and blow off steam after a long day's work and there's nobody to play and they don't really want to give you a teaching game. So don't make them. Like, that's just,
So the what was kind of interesting was when John would come, and I don't know if the other people he played feel the same way as I do. I'd like to hear from them if you're out there. But I feel like every time John showed up and we played, he made it matter. It was always so much fun to play against him. So like he would play these brilliant teaching games where I'd take 6-7 stones, and they would always be super fun. And he would almost never say a word, but I always went to club wishing he would be there and knowing that if he was there, it would be great. And thinking, like, how does he do that with like not saying anything? Like, he just doesn't talk. And
does he have an expressive face? Does he like?
It's hand talk.
Is it all? Is it all body language? Is he like?
So
is he like really?
I'm going to be so embarrassed if John ever watches this. But he would do things like like put his finger on one of your stones during a review, and then lift his head up from the board, make eye contact with you, look back at the board, and just like move the stone a line over, and then nod. Like, oh yeah, of course it should have been a line over.
So he's the strong silent type, huh?
So I think another interesting thing I want to raise up is the internet in terms of Go clubs, because people can just play whenever they want. And I think we've answered the question, but we can bring it up again. Does the internet help or hinder Go clubs now? Because people can just get Go wherever they want. And, some people might show up to the Go club and, they see the Go clubs there, but they might not be able to get the game they want, so they'll just go home and play. How do you guys feel about, in the clubs you've seen, or just interactions, be it the Go Center or in your own respective club, do you think the internet helps or hinders?
You want to rock, paper, scissors for who goes first? Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot! Oh, we tied. 1, 2, 3, shoot! Let's go. 1, 2, 3, shoot! Oh, come on!
I'm going to pick someone then. Right, go, Andrew, go.
Okay. Does it help or hinder? There's no question it's totally transformed in-person Go, like everywhere. It not just here, like Korea has had in-person Go clubs, just the attendance is cratered. China, I'm sure, has had the same problem. I know that it's been a problem everywhere. I'm not convinced that problem is totally bad, because you probably weeded out some of the people who are not going to be really personable anyway, like who would not be there for the people no matter what you do. I think that we're getting to the point where most of the places where you have Go Club probably still have internet access. So you can maybe say, I'm going to go play a game at club and have your computer. Like, I know that at the Cornell Club, sometimes some people would bring their laptop. If they can't get a game, they'll play on KGS. People will come kibitz on their game on KGS. Yeah, I mean, why? it's still a social activity, right?
I made a surprise noise, but we would have parties with the Ann Arbor Go Club
Yeah, where they
where
play
we would
online.
all play together online, projected up on the wall, grab dinner, and yeah, that was a blast. So
And everybody yells at everybody else, "What are you doing?" And you don't have to worry about distracting your opponent there either. You can totally just yell at your friend, which is great.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah,
So,
if you've never done that, people watching do that. That's really
yeah,
fun.
but maybe make a different account. Some people get real. We're not encouraging you to violate the terms of service of any Go server. Disclaimer here.
Yes.
No, but I mean that can be super fun as well, and I think there's definitely some ways that the internet can help. I know that there has never been more resources online for people who are interested in the game. And so if you choose to consume those resources socially, you can. Like when they were doing the Guli Lee Sedol Jubango, the Seattle Ghost Hunter had viewing parties, even though if they were like crazy late at night, right? They'd go till like 2 a.m. There would still be like, we'd get a projector, we'd put them on the screen, and we would watch Guli versus Lee Sedol. As some people are paying attention, some people are playing their own game. Some people aren't doing anything except check their phones anyway. But it was still like shared viewing. It was still like this shared reception thing, which was pretty special. I think. I don't know. It was super fun.
Cool. So. And Eric, do you have any views about it?
I mean, so when I play Go on the internet, it's like I'm between faculty meetings and have like 30 minutes to kill. So let's go do something.
Out. Okay.
But so I mean, I feel like it always could be good for clubs. For example, like Kevin, we played a few times online, kind of in prep for Congress, the past couple of Congresses, and it's great for maintaining connections with the people that you know. But it's really hard to build new connections, right? There's typically not the momentum after a game to keep talking. Which is great in the sense that you can whip out a 30-minute game in between meetings.
Or you can keep up with a friend who you haven't seen in months. Yeah, that's a really good point.
In my experience, and I have only my own sampling, in my experience, there's not online communities that I've found particularly easy to plug into, right?
Right.
So I know on KGS a while ago, Empty Sky, Wings Over Calm Waters Go Club had a pretty big presence on KGS back in the day. I remember at least knowing enough that or hearing about it enough that it was a thing.
Do you know who they are, Kevin? Have you heard of them? These guys were one of the first online-only Go clubs. Wings Across Calm Water. Their explicit goal was like, we don't have a physical location. We're for those people who aren't near a Go club or who want to be part of our Go club as well. They're an actual AGA chapter that has no geographical center.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I remember they've been around for a long time, like 15 years.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and they're still active?
Yeah, they're still active, I think.
Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Like Andrew mentioned, I think that accessibility to easy or to instantaneous games online may hurt, or certainly has hurt, attendance at physical clubs. But I guess that's kind of all I know about it.
Yeah, there's an interesting line. I talked to Andy Oken at this during the last Go Congress, and I mentioned it when I interviewed him. I asked him what he thought was an interesting part of the Go clubs are, and we've talked about it. And it's basically, he says, it's also very useful for a Go club that when you go there, there's something else to do outside of Go. He said a lot of these places, if you show up and it's just, fluorescent lighting and tables and Go boards, it can be very hard to be social. And he said the one he went, there was at a coffee shop, and there would be strange poetry and musical performances. And he said that always helped, that if you went there, you would still be able to see something. I've been to certain clubs where it's in a quiet environment, and Go is already a quiet game. And so you feel this, sometimes I feel like I have huge pressure not to speak. and it becomes a problem because it needs to be a more social game if you're going to do it in
Maybe
person.
you should just turn this into a whole question. What is the ideal site for a go? Because this is part of logistics. 1, get people's name. 2, get people's email. 3, figure out where the hell you're going to have this every week, right?
Right.
And so what is the ideal place? Sometimes some people love coffee shops. I know some people will be like, I couldn't go there. It's so noisy. I can't play it. So how do you find a good, like what is the ideal, Kevin, what is the ideal, Eric, what is the ideal place to have a Go Club?
Go ahead.
Andrew, I think you mentioned one characteristic that's really important, which is where will they let you leave the boards?
See, okay, I actually slightly argue against that because everybody loves to bring their boards at our club. And
really?
Yeah, we just say, look, we have 2 or 3 boards. We have 2 or 3 boards.
I think that's an anomaly. I think that we have a stack of boards. So when Ben and I started the Michigan Club and plugged in with the Ann Arbor Go Club, and now it's kind of the Michigan Ann Arbor Go Club. We were at a Borders location, a Borders bookstore that had a cafe, and we would keep our boards up at the cafe. And that store has since closed, but years and years before the store closed, they were remodeling the cafe, so we had to leave for like a week or something. Right. It was like, a couple of days that we couldn't meet there. So we moved down the block to another coffee shop and just never moved back. Like, that's Go player inertia for you. Like, that was it. Like, we had to leave for 2 days
it's not worth the hassle. We'll just meet down there. That's right.
That's right. And so we've been at this Espresso Royale ever since. But they let us leave the boards there, and it's a dark, kind of ambient, noisy location where there's usually people there doing stuff, even in the summer when the students are gone.
Right. So because I have an answer to this question that I posed to you guys, because I've thought about it. I don't know if you guys have given this some thought, so maybe I should have just given my answer of what I think the Go Club location is. It's got to have a gradient from like a loud place for social people and a quiet place for people who want to focus on their thing, and maybe have that be separate, right? You want the food to be there. You need it to be, if not public, at least quasi-public, so that you can get newbies and people who sort of see it.
Right.
And then as far as the equipment goes, it needs to be close, depending on how big it is. You either need that equipment. I have not ever had a Go Club where it was like people were stoked to bring their board to Go Club, because that's going to get like beer spilled on it or food. Actually, this
and
is
the stones get disgusting. You have to wash those.
That is if you run a Go Club, please, like once a year at least, or at least once every quarter, please wash your Go Stones, because when they have the sour milk smell,
they're like, it fills the whole back kitchen where they get all of the stones at the Go Center and they're all washed out. Anyway, it's great stuff. One of the tips that I had was, if you're at a college club, you can get someone in the architecture department who probably has access to a laser cutter, and they can get some plywood or some medium density fiberboard or something like that, and you can just laser print Go boards. They're kind of junk, but then you only need stones. And I think that the AGA will ship you ing sets of stones. AGA or the AGF will ship you sets of stones. They won't give you any help on the boards, but they will ship you stones. So as long as you've got access to a laser cutter, make friends with someone in the architecture department. This was out of Virginia Tech. But the downside with that was that they weighed a ton. Oh my God, did they weigh a lot. So we did not like
do they ship them in the ing hexagons?
The ing hexagons.
Gosh, those things are
which
so
are
heavy.
I mean, they're great, and they're non-ideal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and like lead filled too. Like
there's that problem.
Like pewter or something. So
yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Well, so for me, our Go Club, because we've had to actually move 2 or 3 times. We used to meet before it was me. Actually, they were paired with the chess club. They met at a restaurant, and when I met them, they met at a Barnes and Noble. That Barnes and Noble let us keep stuff there.
Right.
And then they had to close down, renovate, and the new tables were too small, so we moved to a Borders. That Borders also was cool enough. They had a cafe. They let us keep stuff there, but then Borders closed down. So now
then you moved to Amazon. Oh wait.
No, we moved to a supermarket. It's sort of like a Whole Foods. It's a really big Whole Foods, and they have good food there, which is nice. People can have a reason to go there because you can do your shopping. But also, they actually didn't let us keep our stuff there. But what we found is, I mean, if we have one or two, and probably goes to your core members, one or two core members that keep showing up, then we said, okay, well, please just bring the boards. Or I also thought, you know, what if we just, everyone who showed up, we just gave them a set of stones if they became a regular, and then we just have someone bring boards. But we haven't had to go to that point yet. But
well, this is
we have
also
a lot of people
everybody that you have has a car, right?
Right.
When it's like the college, some of the college clubs, not everybody has a car. Not even like, maybe not anybody has a car. Those were the days. Oh man.
But I don't know. I think the location should matter in terms of like it should foster some sort of social feeling. I think, like I said, if you
the two words I think that are most important there are accessibility and inclusivity.
Okay. Yes.
All right, Eric, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You think Kevin's doing the interviewing here, but I got a question for you.
Mm.
Okay, so inclusivity. I 100% agree. One of the most important things you have to do is you have to have the feeling of inclusivity, that everybody's going to be welcome and that it's going to be a friendly, safe space for people to go to. Guaranteed. Got to have it. Are you familiar with the geek social fallacies?
Mm-mm.
All right, there's this great essay you got to read about the geek social fallacies. But here's my question for you. How do you handle that person who is toxic to your Go Club, who damages that sense of inclusivity for other people? I know I've had these people where, you know, they don't shower. They hit on every woman who shows up, regardless of whether or not they say, I'm not interested, please stop bothering me. Like, how...
You get girls at your Go Club?
Yeah, and that's actually another important question. And I think that it should be, you should aspire to a 50-50 gender split or better.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's another topic. So how does your inclusivity is crucial meet the people who, if included, will drive away and make your place toxic?
That's a tough one. So, I mean, the answer is have a conversation.
But that means confrontation. I don't know if I could do that.
It does mean confrontation, but the tricky part is sticking to facts and how you perceive how something went, and explaining those facts, and keeping the discussion about, you know, for example, let's say Andrew was, you know, really awfully hitting on someone.
Sure.
Just to kind of run with your example.
Yeah, I was hitting on Kevin and it made Kevin uncomfortable.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
and so you know, and stuff like this has absolutely happened in our club, and so I would.
Mine too. So this is why, I think it. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Take Andrew aside, and I would say something like, you know, Andrew, that interaction that you just had made me really uncomfortable because I feel like it maybe made Kevin possibly feel unwelcome here.
Right.
And how do you feel how that thing just went? And then that could go a bunch of different ways from there, right?
Right.
But it has come down to, in some cases, saying, you know, if you're going to keep acting like this, you're not welcome here. You're straight up not welcome, because this is completely inappropriate behavior for a place, for a space where everybody feeling welcome is really important. That's a key thing that we're trying to strive for here.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and
I think it's been different for my club.
Being willing to draw that line and say, if you're going to keep doing this, you know, you're not welcome. I think that that's a hard one, because you're essentially saying, I need the level of inclusivity for these people. Like, I care more about the inclusivity of them than I care about the inclusivity of you. And that's a hard thing to say. But sometimes it has to be said. Like, anyway.
And what I'll clarify with is that it's pretty rare. I think that most of the time when people are being jerks, they don't know. And kind of sitting down and talking about it in a constructive way can be really enlightening. And we all want to hear that feedback.
Right.
You know, if you're accidentally being rude or accidentally, you know, overstepping some bound that you didn't know exists.
Or you just need to shower. That's been a thing. Like,
yeah. And one of my favorite players at the Ann Arbor Go Club was by choice homeless.
Right.
Steve didn't shower, but actually
Right.
that ended up not being an issue. That was Steve, and
It cannot be an issue if this is the same person who like hit on all the ladies and like stood way too close and like violated personal space and like it was a
Right.
problem, right? So maybe Steve he realizes that he's making this choice that he doesn't make the same culturally normative hygienic choices that everyone else is making. And that's totally fine as long as you appreciate the impact that you have on people, right? Like
yeah.
totally.
Yeah. For me, I think the worrisome thing about it, and how do you guys feel on time? By the way, we're nearing an hour.
Still good.
Fine.
Okay.
We've barely scratched the surface. I think I got
Right.
another like 3 or 4 things I want to talk
Oh,
about.
great. As long as you guys are fine with it. But here's the thing I'm always worried about. And it might come down to demographics, but I always worry how fragile a club is.
Mm.
And I've had unsavory people show up to my club as well.
Right.
Mine has usually been avoidance. Look, they'll find people who they want to talk to and interact with, and it'll work out fine. I mean, at the end of the day, people are here to play Go. And if they can play a game and they're not a huge jerk about it, it usually works out all right. But clubs are, in a way, fragile things. I know that there used to be a really big Houston scene, and then these things can just as easily shrivel up and just disappear. Um, do you guys feel that they're sort of fragile, and like what do you do when you feel that, how to maintain their robustness?
So,
You want to go first, Eric?
yeah. So clubs are definitely fragile in the sense that, if you don't have those people that are present maintaining your club's particular traditions,
Mm-hmm.
things can go away, right?
Right.
As soon as that the reproducibility and the tradition disappears, so will the people. They'll go find their other traditions. So if that loss of that leadership is unexpected, a club will disappear. I think maybe a way of rephrasing the question is, how do you transfer that set of responsibilities and prioritization of certain key elements of running a club to somebody new? That's a trickier thing that I think is I don't know if I necessarily know the answer to that, because I think that it really depends on there existing somebody in the club that wants to take those reins. If there isn't, then I think maybe your club just got unlucky, and maybe that one's going to fizzle out. But if you get lucky and there's someone that's excited to keep being there, or someone that's excited to keep being the nice person, then
Yeah, you want to groom them. You got to make them ready for the leadership handoff. That's right.
Yeah. And so that's something that you can do, with time. But with time, people, especially in college towns, they graduate and they move on to the next thing. They get a great job in Tokyo working for Google.
Right.
Are you feeling some abandonment issues there? Is that what I'm hearing?
That like gets like driven into your soul as a club leader at a university town, is like your friends leave every year. Every single year, you've got really good friends who leave. And I was in Michigan from 2000 through 2012 in undergraduate and graduate school. Mm-hmm. So that was after I graduated, and I still had 7 years of people that I really liked leaving while I stayed there. And so
that's absolutely, especially for the college clubs. That's like, how do you pass on the rituals? How do you make sure it happens? Sometimes you don't, and they fizzle. I mean, even if you have like faculty members or townies, like your college club will not live on a townie alone.
Right.
Even if you have a lot of them, like Jared Beck has been involved with the Cornell club, every year, but he has to have someone in the Cornell student body who wants to take it because that's how they can keep meeting where they meet. That's how they can keep getting the access to like the club fairs, and there have been years where it's been a little thin, and there have been years where there's like super organizer person who wants to make this like part of their resume.
Right.
And that it ebbs and flows, I guess, is I guess where we're going with that. But if you are that person and you are a senior in college and you're leaving, you should absolutely look for who your successor is going to be, and don't just leave them to figure it out. Like take that person who's excited about it, who looks up to you, who and figure out how you're going to say, all right, here's what needs to happen to make this happen every week.
Yeah.
Like you can actively cultivate those people who have that interest. So
cool. Is there any other
people
topics?
Exist, and I think sometimes they don't know that they exist. Like before you guys ran a club, did you know you wanted to run a club? You probably just walked in.
I had to run a club to find people to play with.
Yeah.
Like, exactly.
If I knew that I had this many quote unquote responsibilities, I wouldn't have taken it.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
But no, that's how about let's talk about events real quick. I mean, how key are? I've actually tried to avoid running a tournament for years. We're finally going to do one next month, but how key do you think events are? Maybe in terms of spreading the word, or maybe just spreading the word in general.
I think they're really nice, but it also varies a little bit with demographics. So I think what we found in Ann Arbor was when we held tournaments, our younger populations were really excited to come out and compete. So especially for like elementary school kids and high school kids, we saw
you were talking here.
We saw a big uptick in primary education students show up for tournaments, and we would typically see them come to club for a while afterwards because there was this momentum, and we had some traditions with going out to dinner after tournaments. So we would try to take as many people as possible, go out to a big restaurant that could accommodate everyone. And this started actually with, we had I don't know how regular the series was, but the Ann Arbor Go Club would go down to Columbus, Ohio, and we would play the Columbus Go Club. Whichever club lost would buy dinner for everyone.
Oh, wow.
And I don't actually remember the win-loss record for while I was there, but I just remember like having a road trip that we knew ended in dinner that had a tournament in the middle was super, super fun, regardless of which direction we were going. So that was a really great event. That was a very pleasant Go Club memory. But
I absolutely agree. The events are important. I think that the East Coast, the Cornell Club, there'd be folks driving off to the New Jersey Open. Some people would make trips down to the Maryland Open, to the Cherry Blossom Go tournament, some of these East Coast tournaments where you'd get a whole car full, and they'd all car trip down there, and they'd have the tournament in the middle. Everybody'd crash at somebody's friend's parents' house or whatever it is. It was so much fun. It really builds a lot of that camaraderie. It helps you forge those relationships and friendships that get people coming back, which I think is maybe the most important reason to do something like that. If you are looking to get your club together, get some of these folks, get them to drive to a tournament. And this is maybe an East Coast thing because it's a lot easier to drive to a tournament, whereas if you live in Texas, it may be a lot harder to do. Mm-hmm. But if you've got that kind of density, then definitely consider it because it's a great way to get that group to mesh.
Yeah.
And to gel.
Road trips are the universal team builder, right?
That's right. That's right.
Spend 6 hours in a car with these people, and you come out friends, or you'll never speak to them again. And you'll find the other people that are friends.
I still remember we did a road trip from Cornell down to the Virginia Tech Go Club because the Virginia Tech Go Club was having a tournament, and I was like, I have to go. I started this club, and I left them. I have to go. And it's like a 9-hour drive or a 10-hour drive. It's ridiculous. I went with this dude who I think is at least 7 feet tall. And it was this little 2-door car, and he had to roll down the window to get his knee out the window because he was sitting in the path. It's like a little 2-door. And so he's sitting there, and he's sitting like this in this car for 9 hours. Totally just a champ. Just totally, anyway, just not a word of complaint. then he like ends up on some couch that he doesn't fit on, and he apparently had a good time. So, I think he ended up making $1 at that tournament.
I have another hypothesis that that anyone that's been playing Go long enough to have gone to a few tournaments with friends like this or congresses on road trips have like the same stories of like the insane physical conditions that a Go player is willing to bear just to play Go for a couple of days.
We would road trip up to Steve Colbert's house in Rochester, and there would be people on like every available surface to sleep on to do the tournament the next day. And like some of these people would snore. I'm not naming any names here. There's some people who had some snoring that was just, and it was just this crazy reunion thing. Then the next night after the tournament, everybody would play poker, and Go. Of course, there's going to be Go being played at the same time. But it's kind of, I don't know, yeah. You get good stories out of attending those events.
Yeah.
Out of organizing those events, yes and no. Like in some ways, organizing events is a little bit lower stress because you don't have this feeling like you need to play good Go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In other ways, organizing the events can be higher stress depending on how big the events get. I think if you have a really good Go club, a really large Go club that's robust and everybody loves each other, you should seriously consider hosting a Congress. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. He's
hosted one.
I know.
I hosted one without a Go club, though, and it would have been so much easier if I had a Go club that I was working with if that had been part of the Go club in its heyday, it would have been easier for sure.
Was Lisa local for that, or were you were both not local, right?
We're both not. This is the Santa Barbara Congress. Neither of us was local. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So
I still have the dream of doing a Dallas Go Congress, but
do it.
We can have a different talk for that because I
Boise Go Congress 2025 after we get some
Congress?
Students. Yeah, we've got a great university, great students. We're building this giant convention center downtown. The town is awesome.
Sold. Why 2025? How was 2017 looking?
Maybe 2017. We'll see how the students. We'll see how the students respond to. I mean, we need students to pick up the torch and carry it, right?
Right.
I've got other responsibilities these days.
What?
Yeah, turns out it's
having a kid adds some responsibilities to your life.
Yeah.
Having a kid, that's like easy compared to like getting grants, teaching classes, advising students. Like the kid, like he's on autopilot, man. You just like give him food and like that's easy.
I'm actually really relieved to hear you say that. That actually encourages me greatly. That's good. Jill is laughing at me over there.
Speaking of, enticing people, like, do you worry about trying to entice the Asian members who drop by? This goes back with this, because I think we talked once about the Korean clubs and if they really count, and they sort of just keep to themselves. Sometimes they'll say, "Hey, we have a club here. Would you like to drop by?" And it might be that they just have their own traditions and they, play in it. I know. Go ahead.
How could it hurt to show up and observe those traditions? Maybe you like them.
Right.
So how do you feel about cigarette smoke? Because that's one of those traditions.
There's that.
And if you say anyway, but so I'm from the DC area. DC has this huge Korean population,
right?
And they have had not one or two. They've actually had 3 different 24/7 Go parlors that have like rotated. They shut down, they pop up in other places. They have no English signage. They have no English, no materials. There's no way you would know that they are there.
Right.
And it's really kind of frustrating that they want to do their own thing. On the other hand, like a lot of the people who are there don't have any English of their own. Like a lot of the times, the only language they would be able to speak with other people is through Go. Like that would be the only way they'd be able to do that. So on the one hand, if you do have some people who are stronger than like 2 or 3 Dan and they can go visit these places and give them some surprise, you can almost always make some money because they'll always think that you don't know how to play because you're white. A friend of mine, Nick Gerard, some of you guys know Nick Gerard. Nick Gerard loved going to these places. He doesn't mind smoking. He smokes himself. And he didn't mind gambling. He'd bet on the games. And that was perpetually not taken seriously because he's kind of Indian looking He
Oh,
doesn't even look white, right? And so he just completely got written off. So we would both show up there being like, let's go. And then we'd, try and win, 20, 40, 60, $80. It's probably setting a bad example. You can just cut this whole
Oh no, we're keeping this on.
But as far as motivating those people to show up for your tournaments,
Right.
The things that I have heard is the most motivating is like cash prizes
Yes.
or really, really strong people. So if you have some Korean pros who are coming to visit, they will definitely help bring some of these people in from the Korean clubs, or if you've got Chinese pros, they'll bring in people from the Chinese clubs.
The other thing I'll say is regularity. Having a one-off tournament, people may not be able to plan for, but if you have stuff that happens at a regular interval, then they're like, oh, maybe in a couple of months I'll be able to make it.
This has been a point of contention at the Seattle Go Center. Is it better to have like big tournaments quarterly or like a monthly tournament that only gets like 12 people? I don't know. My feeling is that it's better to have like fewer big tournaments than
But if they're still regular, if it's the spring break tournament every year, for example, right? Like that's still, it's going to happen.
Dude, the Maryland Open is an institution. Like that one, every single Memorial Day weekend, Keith Arnold throws the Maryland Open. He calls it the East Coast Championship, and their prizes are boards, stones, and bowls. Nice ones, and they rotate every 3 years. So it'll be bowls, then it'll be boards, then it'll be stones, then it'll be bowls again.
Keith is one of the best.
Isn't he? He's good at doing this, right? Yeah.
He might be a good. I'll have to contact him.
You are totally gonna have, because he could tell you some of the stories and legends of his unofficial. Like, I was there when I would need to watch that. That's for sure. Actually, you should record it at Go Congress. You should just get him at some point during Go Congress.
I did record his talk of why he's honorable Keith Arnold, not honorary.
That's right.
And I need to put that online one of these days.
Because it is brilliant.
That reminded me of something I wanted to mention when we were talking about online Go. Is maybe playing Go online isn't great for clubs in aggregate, but there's so much stuff like this. Like, where were these videos when I was getting started with Go? I would have paid anything for, to know who's out there organizing stuff, to be able to see pro game reviews, to see amateur game reviews, and like the quantity of information that is just on YouTube and Twitch is just insane right now. It's super, super cool. It's a really exciting time.
Not to mention, we got to also make the obligatory mention that if you're starting a club, you can get equipment for your club if you write to the AGF or you write to the AGA. I forget which one. That's really not my bag.
AGF. It's the AGF.
It's the AGF.
AGF will get you equipment, and if you're a library or if you're a school that has a library, you get all of Hikaru no Go just for asking.
Really?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Every single episode.
Did you do this for the Dallas Club?
No, Dallas Go Club, like I said, has been since like the 1980s. So by the time it was my turn, it was already. I mean, we have our own traditions, if you will.
Andrew, I couldn't hear you.
He's just telling us he's too cool for Hikaru no Go. That's what I heard him say.
Yeah, that's it.
Nobody's too cool for it. That's one of the greatest stories ever told.
Of all time.
All time.
Finish, but.
But all right, let's. I think now's a good time for some closing statements. Do you guys have any, or do you want me to start?
I would like something to close on. I don't know what to say.
I'll start then. I think it's interesting what we've talked about. I think the regularity is interesting, but I think the biggest thing, be it Go Congress, Go clubs, or just what we've discussed, is just it is a sense of community. And the thing that we really need to, that's maybe the most important, it probably changes how I felt about just regularity, but it is a sense of community. And if you want to do these things, you really have to just pay attention. Don't let it scare you. I mean, I've made new friends through Go, and it's really awesome. And the fact that you can start something like this and just all you need to do is just be interested and just be open to anyone who's showing up, and they'll all surprise you. We had someone once show up, and I know he's watching because I keep telling people to watch this at my club, but he showed up and he didn't even know about a club. He played this on Yahoo Go, and he didn't realize it was a real game. He just thought it was a game that Yahoo came up with. But
wow, that's giving Yahoo a lot of credit right there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the fact that he can show up and that we're so welcoming and he can play people, I think it's really open to the sense of community, and I guess that is the thing. You just open it up, let people come in, and just be welcoming. And like Eric said, with the traditions and all this other stuff, and be willing to teach. And you'll be always surprised at who picks up the game, who keeps playing the game, and who gets stronger really fast. So I think if you're ever curious about starting a club, don't let it intimidate you. Just
do it.
Yes.
The Sheila Booth thing.
Yes.
Do it.
Does anybody else have any interesting lines to talk either on that or maybe something else?
Eric.
From what your experiences have been.
I was just going to defer to Mr. Jackson. I'm still ruminating.
Okay.
I don't know how to close.
Ruminating. Isn't that from like chewing? From like
Yes.
cows chewing?
Yeah.
All right. So
actually,
closing remarks.
Okay.
Go ahead. You want to?
Well, I was gonna say, because I mean, my experiences and Eric's experiences might be different because you're at the Seattle Go Club and Go Center, and it might be that the people that show up might be of a different breed or different that keep showing up might be different that are looking to learn.
It's a totally different thing, right? They've got taxes. They're a registered nonprofit. They have a paid position for somebody who manages the building and keeps it open, right? Like that's a whole different ball of wax. We could talk about that, but that's a very different kind of dream, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I'm happy to talk about it as far as I know it. Like, I think that, I'm definitely looking forward to getting involved with that more and being on the board of directors there and figuring that stuff out at some point. But that is definitely a different order of magnitude of logistics and stuff than what we're currently talking about. For me, I guess the closing remarks that I would want to make is just the fundamentals of this stuff are, that inclusivity, that safe space, that regularity, the rituals, I think that you mentioned, even if the rituals are just getting all the stuff out and setting it up and putting all the boards and stones on the tables, like whatever those rituals are, if you make them important, people will help them become important. Like
that's a good.
And the other thing is that someone was talking about canvassing for a political campaign. And they, you're going to go around and you're going to knock on people's doors and you're going to say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm from the such and such campaign." And you're going to talk with them and you ask them how they feel about political topics that you're going to start a political conversation with a stranger. And the advice to these people who were going to go around and they were going to go canvassing was they were like, listen, they don't care. Like, you could be right. You could be 100% correct in all of the facts, but what they will remember is whether or not they liked you. Like, they will not care about the policy. They won't remember the tax rates. They won't remember the facts on gun control. They will remember if they thought they liked you or not. If you leave and they say, "What a nice boy that was," that's the favorable impression you want to leave. And a lot of that stuff comes back to the fundamentals: eye contact, remembering people's names, being excited to see them, being interested in their life, giving them space, helping them with when people have problems, being regularly there and being something that they can count on, like a lot of those things are sort of the basics. And that will affect how people think about Go, right? When you go and you sit down and you teach somebody Go and you beat them over the head, "Look, I'm right. Look, I'm right. Look, I'm winning. Look, I'm beating you. Look, you're dumb." Like nobody wants to stick with that game, right? You got to figure out a way to spark their curiosity and make them feel like you like them and make them feel like they'll like you. Like, "Hey, I'd like to see that Eric Jankowski guy again." He gave my wife a bike at Go Congress. And Jill still talks about it. She's like, "Oh, it's that nice guy. He gave me a bike."
That nice Jankowski boy.
That nice Jankowski boy. That's right. She's laughing over here. But this is a totally true story. I don't even know why or how you had a bike at Go Congress to give to Jill. And anyway, this is kind of an aside. But but just doing nice things. It's free. It's easy. It makes people want to come back. Yeah. And the other thing I want to say was, Kevin, what you're doing here, like this whole Go Talk thing, is helping. Exactly. There you go. It's knitting together this big digital community that we want to build, and we want to have that be inclusive. And we want to, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for doing this, Kevin. I really appreciate you putting these videos together and getting people to.
Yeah, for me, it is the most interesting thing about the Go community. Sometimes isn't just the Go, but just all these different types of people you see through it.
There's some really interesting people who play this game. So, Eric, installed long enough for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna like third all of those things. One of which, come to Go Congress. There's a ton of different amazing people there. That is super, super cool. I think it's one of the highest concentrations of a ton of different people that you're going to like all of.
This year, I'm actually going to bring the cardboard cutout of Nick Sabicki. I was going to try and do it for last year, but this year I'm figuring it's going to happen. So you can.
Oh man, I can't wait.
The cardboard cutout of Nick Sabicki.
And if you come to Go Congress and you're like, I'm not sure what this thing is, come meet the three of us. We'll bring you in to meet the people that we know. But this, like I said, there's this other Go Congress of people I don't know that I still need to meet. Just like you were thanking Kevin for putting this together, which thank you, Kevin. This is great. This is knitting together this online disparate community. Andrew, the commentary you're doing is great.
Come on.
The live streaming that you've kicked off has been really, really super cool. Keep that up.
That's awesome all going on, and we're building on. There's a bunch of other folks who did this before. Dwyron, Sean Ray, a bunch of these guys have been.
Yeah, but I mean, starting the live stuff up at Congress in Minneapolis, where they did a great job, or St. Paul, technically, this past summer. Super cool. Really exciting times.
But you should still come. Don't count on being able to see it remotely.
It's so much better to see the streaming in person.
Yes.
The thing I'll mention is that maybe some of the takeaways for club leadership are that, one, it does take some thought and some effort into making this inclusive environment, but it's also doable. So it's something that I think that if it's something that you care about, the information is out there, and there's people to talk to about figuring out how to do this in a thoughtful way. So don't be scared of doing it, and do it if running a club is something that you're excited about.
Hey, Eric, is it worth doing? Is it worth building this club? Even
it's so worth doing.
So good.
Even if they're going to break your heart, is it still worth it?
It's absolutely worth it.
Absolutely worth it, right?
It's absolutely worth it. I mean, like,
question.
Leading
the witness.
All I've been doing, a lot of what I've been doing since showing up in Boise is trying to, I'm putting out feelers right now for building this next club, and it's knowing where it can go is really, really exciting, and building stuff is fun.
All right, we should do a Seattle. Oh, I didn't even mention that. You should totally do like cross club matches or cross college matches. There's the American Collegiate Go Association. They'll hook up like an NCAA like cross club. I didn't even mention that, but this just made me think of it.
Yes, two-time national champion. National champion.
No, I didn't hear that again. Anyway. But you should totally check out the ACGA. They've got a whole thing where they do like college team matches, just like Hikaru. You got 3 boards, and they do that. The AGA City League, you can sign up for the City League. Even if it's college students, you can do that part. In our case, I think there's going to need to be some sort of Boise-Seattle grudge match. I think just the people to organize it, by the way.
Yeah. Just flights are like $90. We can get over there for $90.
$90? Do you get one of those little seaplanes that like lands on the lake or something? Lake Washington? Maybe? I haven't. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, but I want to thank you guys again for being able to do this. Like I said, we all come from different club backgrounds, and I think it was really interesting, and it'll be helpful to anybody who watches this who's curious about starting a club or just wants to know. I think it's always a good idea for us to talk about this because it's so daunting. So thank you, guys. Thank you again, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kevin. And great to talk to both of you. We should do this again sometime soon.
We will have to do this again soon. So thanks, guys, and bye.
Bye.